Hello mates, welcome to Budgie Gaming. I'm your host Finley. Today I'm reviewing the game Off for the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2, costing only $14.99 digitally, which is pretty awesome for a highly rated RPG, or $34.99 for a physical release. I was wanting to get my review out sooner because I was hoping to score a review code, but the request was rejected, which is totally understandable since I'm a very small channel. But if you like my reviews and would like to see them released earlier, hitting the like button, subscribe button, leaving a comment down below, and even sharing this video with someone who you think would enjoy it can help the channel grow, which would give me a better chance at getting review codes, which will get my reviews out to you all much sooner. If you did any of those things, I truly appreciate it. Alright, onto the game. This is a remake of a 17-year-old turn-based RPG. As the title suggests, this game is a little bit off. I'm not sure if that was the intention when naming the game, but it definitely works. Anyway, it's not exactly a horror game, but it's weird and a bit unsettling at times with the odd visuals, darker story elements, and creepy sounds characters make every time they speak. You don't have to play this for very long until you realize how much of an influence this game had on games such as Undertale, Deltarune, and Omori. Now, don't expect Off to be as polished as the other three games I just mentioned, because it does have some issues. Some are based on my personal preference, and some are just poor choices in game design, which we will get into later. Like I mentioned earlier, it is a 17-year-old game after all. The story, while very abstract, is fairly dark, so don't let the bright visuals fool you. You play as the Batter, a man in a baseball uniform on a sacred mission to purify the world. While that sounds simple enough, it gets dark depending on who you have to purify or why you have to do it to begin with. Some characters, you'll have no problem purifying them because they're an asshole. Others, you'll feel bad because of who they are, or in some cases, who they were, which leads to a sad purification. The combat is simple but satisfying enough. It's turn-based, where you get to attack every time a little white bar under each character completely fills up. Your choices are Basic Attack, which is what it sounds like, your most basic attack. Defend, which means you'll take less damage next turn. Competence, which is a list of special moves that have different effects such as poisoning the enemy, healing party members, giving party members buffs, removing negative effects from party members, or attacking with a special element, such as metal or plastic, which some enemies may be weak to. These attacks use a certain amount of CC, which is essentially mana. CC doesn't regenerate, so you have to use these attacks strategically in battles. The only way to regain CC is through items, or finding a save spot. You have the option of using some of your items during battle, and depending on the battle, you sometimes have the option to flee, even though it doesn't always work. Some enemies, such as the whale, are impossible to flee, so you're forced to always fight them. And that's about as complex as the battle system gets. It doesn't change during boss fights, but the fights are longer, so you will have to make sure you're loaded up on HP and CC recovery items for these battles. You will definitely need these items, especially for the boss fight in Zone 2, which is a very long but satisfying boss fight. But the fight does end on a sad note. One interesting choice the developers made for the battle system is not showing you the enemy's health bar unless you use one of your competence moves. This move reveals your enemy's health bar, and it carries over every time you run into that enemy type again. At first I was annoyed that I had no clue how much health the enemy had, but once I found this out, I thought it was kind of cool and different. This game has a ton of puzzles, and some of the puzzles were interesting, where you had to remember things, usually a code, or what order you have to tap boxes to gain access to new areas. To remember these, you usually had to write the numbers down since you'd probably forget them by the time you arrived at the room where you'd have to enter the code. I loved these types of puzzles. Another cool puzzle is where you have to keep checking your map to see exactly where you need to walk. If you stepped outside the lines, you were placed in a battle, and a pretty difficult one at that. I'm not sure if I was underleveled or if these fights are always hard, but either way, I really enjoyed this section of the game. Sadly, not all puzzles were this fun. Some puzzles are too vague to even understand what you were supposed to do, such as the Von Gacy puzzle. And some puzzles are downright awful. The puzzle, if you even want to call it that, where you have to get into Dayton's office, was annoying as hell. I absolutely hate it when games place you in a room with multiple exits, but every exit takes you back to the same room you were just in. So you're basically walking through random doors, hoping to get to your destination, because there is no way of knowing what the pattern is to reach your destination. As far as I could tell, there were no subtle hints about which directions you should be taking. It was basically just a guessing game. I realize this game is 17 years old now, so some things are bound to feel a little dated, but I feel like this was a bad design choice, even by 2008 standards. Puzzles like this are not even puzzles. They are not clever, they are not unique, and they most certainly are not fun. They're quite simply fucking annoying and get on my last nerve every single time I have the displeasure of doing one of these so-called puzzles. In fact, when I arrived at this section, I attempted it twice and said, screw it, I'm looking up a guide for this section, because I don't have the time nor patience for shit like this. On to more positive aspects of the game. The entire vibe of the game is very cool. The music is well done and beautifully haunting, and most of the locations are interesting, distinguishing themselves from one another based on their color palette. There were a few standout locations in the game that I thought were really interesting, such as the theme park, library, and probably my favorite of all, the post office. I love that section so much. It feels very much like Lavender Town, which was my favorite location from the Pokemon Red and Blue era. Not only that, but it has some of the most enjoyable puzzles in the game. They're not insanely hard, but they do require you to think a little bit. It's also a good idea to have a pen and notebook with you while doing these puzzles, because there is no way you're going to remember the answer by time you have to solve the puzzle. While some people might find that annoying, I absolutely love when games have puzzles like this. The game runs great on both the Switch and Switch 2, and it looks particularly vibrant on the Switch 2. I'm not sure if there is a HDR upgrade for this game when playing it on the Switch 2, but it looks fantastic. Overall, I enjoyed my time with this game and don't regret spending the $12 and some odd change I paid for it. It was a pretty fun 8 hours. If you enjoyed games such as Undertale, Omori, or maybe even Earthbound, chances are you'll like this game. But this is still a hard game to recommend to just anyone because there are many off-putting aspects of the game, particularly the vague or overly frustrating puzzles. Keep in mind that there are guides for this game, so if you want to play a fun turn-based RPG but breeze through the annoying puzzles, you can easily do so. It is a shame some of the puzzles are so bad, because there are a lot of clever puzzles to be found in this game. All right now, have you played off? If not, did this review sway you into getting it or passing on it? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoy this review, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. Until next time, take care, mates!